It's taken them long enough, but the UFC is finally bringing its cage back to Van City June 14th at Rogers Arena. And unlike the previous two visits, there will be a title on the line this time when Mighty Mouse Johnson puts his UFC flyweight belt on the line against Ali Bagatinov. And I'll tell you what, I think the challenger has a definite, excellent chance to knock out the champ. I mean, this guy brings...
What did you say?
Oh, Mighty Mouse. You're here.
Yeah, I am.
I was just pumping your tires, man. What a great striker and what a great grappler you are.
No, you weren't. No, you were not. And don't you lie to me in my face.
McEwen, please.
Play resumes as they win the draw here inside the offensive zone. C'est le dernier minute de la première période. Referee's got his hand up, signaling a...
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, my name is Joe, also known as Jay-Z Production YouTube. Today I got an amazing and wonderfully talented guest today. What is your name, sir?
You're the one who asked me to come on your show, and you're asking me my name? Come on,
I always do
know
that.
these things, Jay-Z. Come on, Joe. I'm James Cybulski. I'm a broadcaster in the Great White North, based out of Vancouver, covering sports media for several years. And for some of you may know me as the voice of the NHL franchise from EA Sports.
Welcome, Mr. Cybulski. I got a couple questions for you, if you don't mind.
All right, you may not get an answer after not even knowing me, making me do the work to introduce myself. Come on, Joe.
Okay.
All right.
What are you doing during these times of quarantine?
I go swim in hand sanitizer all day and stay in shape. What am I doing? You know what? I keep busy. I've got between my way better half, the two of us have 4 young girls. They play soccer, and the sport associations have recently given us the green light to resume, sport activities here in our province of British Columbia. And so we do a lot of running around, taking the girls to soccer. We keep busy, obviously with work, trying to stay on top of everything. And in addition, we got a puppy literally as the walls closed on the world. And so we have a little Entlebucher named Odin, and he's about 8 months now. And he's on the floor here, right down here. This is him showing.
Hi, Odin.
Brenda just took him for a walk. So Odin as in Thor's dad. And so he's also kept us very busy as well. So that's what's occupied a lot of our time during these difficult, unique times. All those buzzwords that we've used to describe the pandemic, which has driven a lot of people crazy.
Yeah, I've just been podcasting with doing these interviews. I've been doing that. I've been streaming on Twitch once in a while, playing NHL.
Yeah. Nice. How's that going for you?
It's going pretty good. I love playing on the PS4. Best console, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm a PS4 guy myself. It's funny, how people kind of get console loyal, but I remember years ago, a good friend of mine at the time got a PlayStation, like the first PlayStation. You're probably too young to remember the first PlayStation, but I remember him turning it on, and I was like, oh my God, these graphics are amazing. And I had just taken a job in Toronto, and having grown up in Ottawa. And so when I left, I kind of thought, I'm going to justify myself because I don't know too many people starting a new job in a new city. My new best friend will be PlayStation. So I got PlayStation for Christmas, and jumped into that. And then from the original PlayStation to the PS2 and the PS3. And then I thought I was maybe done after the PS3. And then the opportunity to be part of the NHL franchise presented itself. And I thought, maybe it's a sign that I need to get back into gaming again. So, I've taken the plunge of my PS4 the last few years and play a little Madden and play some, obviously, a lot of NHL. And right now, currently trying to save the world as the Avengers. And, little Red Dead Redemption, all that fun stuff.
Good games right there. I like those.
Yeah, they do.
What made you want to become a broadcaster? And who inspired you? Who's your biggest inspiration in broadcasting?
Lousy athlete and like to talk. That's probably my biggest motivation to get into sports broadcasting. I don't know. Like I always seem to. I felt like at a young age I knew this is what I wanted to do, and I just kind of chased it as best I could, and grew up, as I mentioned, in Ottawa, Ontario, the home of the Ottawa Senators, and was there for first 22 years of my life, 23 years of my life, and then had a chance to get a job and worked in radio there, and did some volunteer work for community television. So if anybody who watched Wayne's World over the years, the community access television, and I did that and called, whether it was ringette tournaments or minor hockey or karate tournaments or football, 3-on-3 basketball tournaments, and I mean, you name it, just anything to get my experience, and along the way doing radio as well. And eventually I was lucky enough to get a job at a sports network called The Score, which was based in Toronto. And so I moved to Toronto and kind of did that for a couple of years. And then they needed somebody in Vancouver as kind of their Vancouver reporter, and did that along the way as well. And and then from Vancouver moved back. But yeah, that was kind of how, like, moved to Toronto and then back to Vancouver. And so I bounced around a few times and moving around, but this was something I knew at a young age. It's what I wanted to do. And I've been fortunate enough to be able to do this for, in different variations and incarnations for the last probably 25 years. And guys I really grew up admiring. I was a huge Bob Cole, obviously the voice of Hockey Night in Canada for years. Ron McLean, who is a work colleague now on Hockey Night in Canada. Ron was somebody I really admired a lot. Bob Costas is somebody I really, really liked as well. Bob Costas was a guy I just loved his delivery. As a kid, my goodness, the NBC game of the week from Vin Scully was somebody, listening to him calling a game, a baseball game, was just fantastic. Those were the kind of the names that come to mind. Marv Albert, obviously, somebody I just absolutely have tremendous respect and admiration for. And this one might sound a little quirky for some, but I was also a huge fan of Mean Gene Okerlund as a kid. So the wrestling announcer.
Also, like, you mentioned Wayne's World, I think, right? During like one.
Which mentioned what?
Wayne's World, I think.
Yeah.
Right. We're not worthy. Right. Nice. That's cool.
Are you old enough to have seen that movie there, Joe?
Yeah, I actually got raised on like 80s, 90s movies and music. Believe it or not, like, you should, like, I'm like a pro 80s music and movies, so like that's my main expertise.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. We're in a good place then.
Yeah. Favorite movie and TV show? Speak of that.
Right now?
All time. She's all time.
Of all time? Oh boy. I feel like with movies, if I had to put a favorite movie up there that I would just love to watch again and again, and there's a few movies, but I would say, I know it's historically inaccurate, and the star of the movie isn't necessarily the most lovable guy now, but man, I love the movie Braveheart.
Oh, okay.
Mid-90s, just great Scottish tale. Braveheart I was a huge fan of. Godfather. For comedies, Dumb and Dumber I would probably put up there. Those are probably ones that come to mind. Almost Famous in just terms of a good feel-good type movie, and Glory's another one that comes to mind as well. Like, those are the ones, but I would probably have to put top the power rankings for me. I'd probably say Braveheart. And then favorite TV show. If you asked me this in, say, 1985, it would have been the A-Team hands down. But I would say in terms of the show I probably was most captured by, that I absolutely loved it. It's hard not to think Saturday Night Live in some ways because of how long I've watched it since I was a kid. and still watching it now, how it's relevant. But The Wire, I would probably say, is the greatest TV series of all time for me. Those are the ones that, probably The Wire in terms of, really being captured. Game of Thrones was pretty amazing. I think we could have cleaned up or tweaked the final season a little bit, but I think we've learned that no matter what series it is, no matter how good it is, very few shows have an ending that leave everybody going, oh my God, what a perfect way to say goodbye, right? I mean, whether it was Seinfeld, whether it was Cheers, whether it was Game of Thrones, The Wire, there's always something for people to kind of piss about.
You mentioned Cheers. I met Norm. George went.
Oh, nice.
He was very cool. He was actually at a convention here. I think, last year he was at a convention. He was pretty cool.
George Wendt, who also did the Saturday Night Live skit, The Bears.
Yeah.
It all comes back to Mike Ditka, Joe.
Yeah, right. And then my favorite movie is actually Back to the Future. Big Back to the Future fan.
Back to the Future.
Yeah.
Brenda, who was that recently saying that Back to the Future was their favorite movie? Is it you? Oh, she's tuning me out. Yeah, no, I think that, there's somebody else just recently said that too.
I love Back to the Future. Like it's in my opinion, like kind of iconic movie with like Marty and Doc and
McFly. Hello. Yeah.
Best,
Why don't you make a tree? Why don't you make like a tree and get the hell out of here? No, I haven't watched that in a long time, but it's a good movie.
Yeah, and then believe it or not, besides like sport players and other people, I actually interview actors and actresses have been on my podcast.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Like who?
Do you know Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure? Or Bill and Ted?
I've never heard of that. You interviewed not Keanu Reeves, but the other guy.
Mm-mm. I've interviewed one of the babes. The girls.
That's even better.
I
don't know if you want to. I don't know if it's as a podcaster, as somebody with some broadcast experience. I don't know if you want to just call them babes. I don't want to go with women in 2020 here, buddy. I'm just trying to help. Not trying to tell you how to do your job. Do you remember her name?
Diane Franklin.
Diane Franklin. Okay.
That's
I'll
her.
have to go to the Wizard of Google. It's been a while since I've watched a Bill and Ted film, although I am partly intrigued to watch the new one.
Yeah. Okay. And then I've also interviewed. Do you remember Revenge of the Nerds?
Yes.
He was a little kid back then. Now he's like older. Andrew Cassess. He was a little kid nerd. He played Wormser.
Wormser in the first one?
He's been both the first and second one.
Wow.
Same actor.
Man, the original Revenge of the Nerds is pretty awesome. I probably watched the second one more times. Nerds in Paradise, I think it was.
Yeah.
But the first one was the best one.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty cool.
So
these were all at conventions?
These are actually like I started making these podcasts during COVID times, and I actually interviewed them during COVID.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Why not?
I guess
right?
nobody's got excuses to say they're busy, right? Like,
yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm really busy on set these days. No, you're not. What's Wormser doing these days?
He's just been actually, believe it or not, he's actually like a teacher, or not teacher, a tech. Yeah, tech guy. I forgot the name. Like a tech supervisor at school.
Oh, cool.
In New York, so it's cool.
That's kind of neat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then Diane Franklin, she's still acting in other things like Amityville. I don't know if you've ever seen those movies.
I haven't seen Amityville since the original Amityville.
I think she was in the second one, and now she's like in the newer one.
Oh, okay, cool.
So yeah.
All right. Well, I'll have to check her out on IMDb.
I got you.
Get caught up on my Diane Franklin cast of film credits.
Who was the coolest person you've worked with? The coolest.
I think if you were to ask like somebody like to work along with for like a couple of days, or to interview, or
both. You could do both. I'll do both.
I mean, hanging out with Snoop Dogg for recording lines and last year was pretty awesome. I've been very fortunate to interview a lot of really uh, unique and I guess recognizable personalities in my lifetime. And sometimes there's different reasons. A good conversation really leaves you with a different impression of somebody, right?
Mhm.
I think back to, for me, I'm a huge Public Enemy fan. And I had a chance to have an interview once with Chuck D.
Wow.
And, to talk to Chuck about, the Knicks and to talk about, just sports in New York and the cultural impact of sports and hip hop and just from a societal standpoint as well, like his views on life, man. And I feel like it resonates so much now in 2020. That was one that I have a framed T-shirt, concert tee, Public Enemy signed by Chuck and Flav. Like that's on my wall. Like that's a cool piece for me. Interviewing David Beckham was kind of cool a few years back, and he was such a global celebrity that it's just to get a sense like the guy is still human, right? And that's the one thing you kind of learn about people along the way. To there's certain people you get really excited about talking with, and then you're kind of let down a little bit because they're just they're busy, they've got a lot going on in life, and it's like whatever. And then there's some that just really kind of pop and that stand out where that really leave a great impression. So yeah, Snoop comes to mind. Obviously, just those 2 days, just kind of hanging out, and it was a very casual setting to work alongside. Interviewing Chuck D. When I was a kid, when I was at an age to where my parents were old enough to say, or I was old enough to say, you're staying home looking after your younger sister tonight. You look to see what was on TV certain nights, and depending on when Hockey Night in Canada was over or before Hockey Night in Canada, there was these Canadian CBC specials called Frank and Schuster, Wayne and Schuster. And so I felt like I watched so many of those as a kid, and then years later, working at a classic rock station when I first broke into the business. There was a thing called the Order of Canada. People just recognized for good deeds or lifetime accomplishments. And so, notable Canadians would receive this award from the Governor General. And because I was living in Ottawa at the time, there were a lot of federal politics, happening in the backyard, kind of our, Canadian version of Washington, D.C. And I was assigned because Rush, the band Rush, was getting the Order of Canada. And so I was there to go interview, Geddy Lee and Neil Peart, who just passed away. And it's funny because at the time I wasn't the biggest Rush guy, right? Like me and my buddies were going, oh, Rush. And I later came to appreciate Rush and saw them in concert, and actually interviewed Neil Peart another time years later. And he didn't do a whole lot of interviews, which was kind of funny. But, I kind of look at it like I interviewed Neil Peart a couple times in my life. And anyway, so I was assigned to go down to Rideau Hall to get some sound from these guys, and after getting the Order of Canada. But Frank Schuster, from one of the co-stars of Wayne and Schuster, this show that was always on when I was a kid, that was, he was getting the Order of Canada. And at the time, and this is like mid 90s, so I'm like maybe 20 at the time, and Mr. Schuster was, I'm gonna say he was probably in his 80s at that point.
Oh my God.
And his elderly man in his tuxedo getting his Order of Canada, and he's just kind of standing around the lab, like nobody's going near him. Like really, like it seemed like nobody knew who he was. And I got went over. I'm like, Mr. Schuster, and here's like this 20-year-old kid, and he's probably in his mind like, how does this kid know who the hell I am, right? And that was like, for me, it was such a fanboy moment to kind of have a to meet and talk to him as somebody, I kind of connected with you as a child, right? And so those are those types of moments sometimes that it's sometimes those a personal connection more than it's funny, like Gary Carter, I think I was telling you before we interviewed, I had a chance to Gary Carter was like my hero as a kid, him and Wayne Gretzky and Magic Johnson, and those were kind of like, well, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar as well from a basketball standpoint. But to have a chance to interview Gretzky and Gary Carter, Gretzky's done so many interviews, and Gretzky, like, as much as I love and admire Wayne Gretzky, like he always seems tired when he does an interview, right? He's just he's just been asked everything, right? And so I get it, I totally get it, but like, it kind of bursts your bubble a little bit where they're like, oh, you're just thinking, you've got this built up excitement that this is going to be the cool, like, hey, Wayne, I wanted to ask you, you know what, James, that's a great question. Like that doesn't really happen, right? Like, oh, I'm so glad you asked me that. Nobody's asked me that before. And, you have those, Wayne was, Wayne's always kind of tired and, whatever. I mean, he's done a bazillion of them. And Gary Carter, the same thing. Like Gary, I certainly got a sense like he was kind of giving me that, like, I'm kind of tired. I don't really want to do this right now. And I kind of played, oh, from Canada, all the Expos fans up there. And like, okay, kind of grudgingly did it. And, flashed the smile when the cameras were rolling. But, it's funny what resonates sometimes. Another one, actually, I'll tell you another fun one that really kind of popped for me. You talk about like favorites and people you looked up to. When I was a kid, I was a huge fan of Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, who was a big wrestler in the 80s and a big star in the 80s and into the early 90s as well. And Ricky Steamboat was my guy. Like, he was my guy as a kid. And years later, he was working as a producer behind the scenes for WWE. And I remember one of the media relations guy or the PR guy for WWE had messaged me saying, hey, listen, Ricky's going to be, just outside of Toronto for this show. If you want, you get a camera, we can set something up for you. And I was like, oh my God, let's do this. And, drove out with a camera and made arrangements and like had like a half an hour to an hour just sitting there on the ring, interviewing Ricky Steamboat and talking about like his life experience. And oh my God, like it was so, like, to me, like there was like 10-year-old me inside of me was just like, oh my God, I'm talking to Ricky Steamboat right now. And so, and he was so nice and he was so cool. And, it was just, great to, go down memory lane and share his stories. And that's another one that kind of stands out for me.
Those are like all like, the Wayne's World type of thing, almost like, right?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, no, it was, certain moments and those personal connections that sometimes kind of resonate more than like, and somebody kind of living up to the hype and the experience, right? And those certainly some unique ones along the way.
If you were a broadcaster, what would your career be? And what other interests and hobbies you have besides your own broadcasting?
Well, I help coach my daughters in soccer from time to time, so that kind of keeps me occupied. Not to say I'm not a very good coach, but I coach. I help out anyway. What else? If I wasn't a broadcaster, that's a good question. And it's funny. I sometimes wonder that these days, like, is this something I'm going to do for the rest of my life? Do you hit the reset button and do something different? You never know. I don't know. I think when I was younger, my backup plan initially was, if it didn't work out to be a broadcaster, plan B was to be like a paramedic.
Oh, okay.
I was going to take a course in ambulance and emergency care to do that going into college. So that was kind of a thought back, coming out of high school. that was a thought. My dad was a cop growing up, so I thought about it for about a minute, but didn't really go down that road. I think I thought about being a lawyer a few times as well. So those were a couple things, I guess.
Wow, you actually look like a hockey agent. That's why I think you
A hockey agent, yeah.
Yeah,
Those guys make pretty well. Some of those guys make pretty good money. Yeah.
like you made one.
Does that make me? Does that to say I look shady?
No. Don't worry. It's just some balls.
All right, I'll take it. I'll take it as a compliment. I think.
And then, believe it or not, for a career, do you know like what I want to be? I want to be like a director or a filmmaker because I love writing scripts as a hobby.
Cool.
So that's what my
Yeah, I've often thought about writing a book sometimes, and at some point, and finding that sort of, that story that really kind of pops, that resonates, to really kind of dive into. Maybe one day. I actually wrote a book with a friend of mine who was a pro hockey player, and we wrote his story. And he ultimately decided at the last minute he didn't want that story out there. So we kind of pulled back on it. But but to go through the process of, to tell those stories, it can be fun.
It's fun though, like you said, like it's because I believe it or not, like I have hundreds of scripts written. Actually,
You do?
Yeah.
Or like sketches or full like movies?
full movies. Actually, no joke.
Wow. Have you
Like
pitched
right
them?
for.
Have you pitched them at all?
Not yet. I want to, but not yet.
What do you write? What do you write about?
Okay, so they're like some of them are like action adventure, some are like mystery thriller. Like they vary. Some are sci-fi because I love sci-fi, especially time travel.
Yeah. So are you would you say you're more of a Trekkie or more of a Star Wars guy?
Star Wars. Star Wars all the way.
Nice. Who's your favorite Star Wars character?
I'm a big Anakin Skywalker fan because I actually met Hayden Christensen. He's a cool dude. Very cool dude.
A good friend of mine was pretty good buddies with Hayden when they were out. When Hayden, I think, was living out here in Vancouver, if I'm not mistaken. But I remember him always saying that, like, they couldn't go out. Like, they just would always get mobbed. Like, that guy, like, I don't know if, like, I'm sure playing the role of Anakin was great for his career, but I'm sure it's probably been
Crazy.
a curse at times, too.
Yeah, so many people. Yeah.
Well, I think, I mean, just the expectations and the pressure to live up to that character, right?
Mm-hmm.
He did a pretty good job of kind of making that turn, right? You knew where the story was going, and you got to get to it. But, that sort of, seeing that role to when he kind of inherits, he's in there for those last two movies, for Attack of the Clones and then Revenge of the Sith. And, yeah, I think it's probably a lot of, it's a lot to probably live up to in that, right? But, I wonder if he would ever do another Star Wars movie again.
Maybe. Who knows? Don't. Do you have a favorite Star Wars character?
I mean, I was a Luke guy. Like,
Mark Hamill.
I was a big Luke Skywalker guy as a kid. I really, the kids ask me this because now they're all into it, and I would say like Boba Fett was my favorite action figure. In fact, I'll show you this. I think it's over here. Yeah, watch this. All right, give me 1 sec.
Okay.
So when I was a kid, I was all about, eventually garage sales, making money, right? So I'd sell my toys and all that. But my mom was smart enough to set aside 3 of my original action figures from the original Star Wars movies.
Awesome.
So that's my original Han, Leia, and Obi-Wan. I don't think Obi-Wan still has the lightsaber too. Isn't that cool? And
wow, that's cool.
kind of a poor paint job on the side of Obi-Wan's face. where it kind of goes right up to his eye. But he's missing his cape now. But yeah, my mom hung on to those for me. They're a little bit beat up, but I think they're still kind of a collector's item. What,
Yeah.
43 years later. So yeah,
Oh.
there you go.
I love Star Wars. So when you mention Star Wars, favorite band and type of music?
Public Enemy.
Okay.
I think I am an all over the map, like legitimately all over the map guy. I love the Foo Fighters. You
Dave
know,
Grohl.
boy, like, you know, Chuck D and Dave Grohl, those would be two guys it'd be kind of fun to invite over for a dinner party. You know, Dave's pretty cool. You know, I find myself listening to, I'm a huge Stevie Wonder fan.
Okay.
I love the Motown sound from the 1960s. Big Four Tops guy, David Ruffin's voice. Like I love a lot of R&B and soul and funk stuff with horns. As I like to often say to friends, things sound better with horns. But it just, I mean, music is such a subjective thing. It really kind of depends on the mood, right? There are some days I just want to chill and listen to something acoustic and relaxing. And then there's some days where, you know, give me a funky beat, or, you know, give me Appetite for Destruction from Guns N' Roses, and I want to turn it up loud, and I want some Foo Fighters and just kind of, you know, crank it up. And then there's some days where, you know, I want some hip hop, and, you know, I want to listen to, I was a big NWA and PE guy, like I said. And, you know, and I look at some present day stuff, what I like or what I find I'm drawn to. Run the Jewels I like, and, you know, Kendrick Lamar I'll enjoy listening to. But, you know, the kids sometimes is what they like too, right? And then it's discovering, you know, some classics that, with them. I took my oldest daughter to see Queen last year, and to see them in concert, and, you know, and then here they are, like, falling in love with all these hits that, you know, I listened to when I was a kid, right? And you know, you know, Bohemian Rhapsody, you know, this all comes back to Wayne's World again, right? And the kids, you know, kind of love listening to Bohemian Rhapsody, right? So yeah, I feel like it really depends on the mood. I mean, it might be jazz, it might be Pearl Jam, it might be the Tragically Hip, it might be Maestro Fresh West, it might be, you know, might be the Guess Who, might be some Zeppelin. I'm all over the map. But I guess if you had to pin me down, I feel like, you know, the Tao of Chuck and Dave would be probably the two I'd lean towards, right?
You know what's funny? It's pretty ironic. That is actually my favorite band, Queen. It's pretty
Oh,
ironic.
really?
Yeah.
Yeah. I
My
mean,
favorite.
like, just, I mean, my goodness, like, they were like the hits and the sound, just everything.
Yeah.
You know, seeing them in concert, they were fantastic last year. I mean, the only thing that was missing was Freddie, and obviously you can't fully replace Freddie. But I'll tell you what, like, Adam Lambert is pretty damn close. You know, he's got the personality, he's got the flair. You know, and a great singer too. He's not quite Freddie. Unfortunately, he was one of a kind. But in terms of the impact, yeah, I mean, Queen just, you know, in terms of what they could offer, in terms of, and the different variations of what they did, right? I mean, whether it's like We Are the like, you look at how iconic, like, We Are the Champions and We Will Rock You. They're kind of two songs built as one, but, you know, they're so iconic in, like, arenas for sporting events everywhere. You know, Bohemian Rhapsody is, you know, become such a huge institution in pop culture. You know, I think Wayne's World had a huge hand in that, you know, for a different generation. But again, like, it's, you know, then you think of Under Pressure, and you think of, you know, you know, as a kid, I remember there was a movie called Flash Gordon that came out, and like, that was cool. Like, you know, and then Queen, you know, their Don't Stop Me Now, and the Shazam soundtrack, like, the kids like that. And like, there's so many great songs. You know,
Mhm.
Where to begin? Yeah,
Yeah.
that's not a bad choice for a favorite band.
Brian and Roger are very nice, by the way. Just like
Are you gonna tell me that you've had them both on your show?
no, I know. I wish. Oh, I'd probably have a heart attack. No, but I met them, and back on my brother's birthday, July 13th, 2017, in Chicago. They had a concert here. And we
Okay.
had backstage passes, and then Brian May puts his arm on my shoulder, like, "Holy crap!" You know what I mean? You're Brian May. I mean,
How did you get backstage passes? Who do you know?
we just bought them because they know my family knows like I'm a big fan of Queen, so that's probably why.
Wow, that's pretty cool hookup. So did you get a picture with Brian May?
My phone was dead. My
Your
phone
phone
was
was
dead.
dead, and
Yeah.
nobody had a phone close by.
No, unfortunately, no.
Wow.
I got an autograph though. I did get an autograph. Being like, that's something at least. You know what I mean?
That the autograph was the original selfie, right? Like
Yeah.
that was- the autograph's pretty cool. What'd you get him to sign?
It was like a picture of like an iconic shot with him and his it's the his guitar, like the red special, his red guitar iconic shot, and then Roger signed like a normal drum picture.
That's pretty cool.
Mhm.
So they were nice guys.
Very nice, cool guys. I was like having a heart attack inside, like a little mini heart attack, but like, oh man, that was awesome.
Did you ask them any questions?
I asked them like who inspired them. They said like all the like other bands, like I forgot the one they said at the time, but like this one band inspired them the most. I forgot the name, but like
Really?
Mhm.
You don't remember the band?
I forgot. Sorry.
How do you forget the band? Like Cream or something like that?
I think
No.
that was it. I think that was it actually.
Cream?
I just forgot. I think it was.
Yeah,
No.
Eric Clapton, right? And,
He was talented, Mr. Clapton.
yeah, very talented, and yeah, that was a pretty cool band. There's a band you can when I was 17, I went through a heavy phase of listening to a lot of Tales of Brave Ulysses and Strange Brew and White Rose and Crossroads and Sunshine of Your Love, and then eventually some solo Clapton and stuff too. But good call.
Yeah. Favorite sports and favorite team from the sports, like from each sport.
Favorite team. I probably get frustrated over a loss from the Bears the most. The Chicago Bears are probably my team that I probably am most passionate about these days. My kids were all over me on this recently, and I feel like I don't necessarily give them a clear-cut answer in terms of favorite sport. It's kind of what the big event is or what the game is in that moment, right? Like, I don't know. I think most of the time, I think if I had the choice, like I would take a Bears game if it's of substance, but it's the meaningful game in the moment. Like I love, an intense, do or die hockey game I'm into. My God, like I love basketball. And just give me some playoff basketball. Like the bubble with the NBA this year, I haven't loved it. It's been different not having fans in the stands. I think you could say it about all the sports, but basketball just, in a 7-game series, like how many times, like just going through my formative years, watching those Eastern finals, Western finals on the way. And I just think back and during the whole Jordan era, I wasn't a Jordan, I wasn't a Bulls guy. I was a Lakers fan as a kid. And, watching Jordan kind of go through everybody, watching those playoffs each year. And, I actually loved, from an Eastern standpoint, I loved the Knicks in those days with Patrick Ewing. So, I think when it comes to playoff time, basketball is tough to beat, but at the same time, like playoff hockey is tough to beat, right? Like it sounds like such an all over the map answer, but the team I probably live and die with the most, or the team I live and die with the most now, is the Chicago Bears. And in terms of favorite sport, I think it's just like I love sports, and so it's what the biggest game is in that particular moment. Man, like you get playoff baseball, the same thing, right? The intensity. And if your team's in it too, like how invested you are. Like I'm a Jays fan, and the Jays had like a 2-minute appearance, in the playoffs, and you're into it, and then you're quickly not into it, right? And yeah, I think I really enjoyed. I felt like I stayed through the Stanley Cup playoffs, in the bubble, despite the crowds. I really found it. I was really into watching the Dallas Stars and their run. So yeah, I think just what's in the big moment. Like I love a big fight, and I say that more from a UFC and a boxing standpoint. I think I'm still of that generation that can appreciate fight night, right? So
Well,
yeah, I don't know if that it was too long of an answer and all over the place.
that's fine.
But the Bears are the team, and yeah, and whatever the big event is on, that's what I'm into.
For sports, I'm a big hockey fan. I love hockey.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And who's your team?
Okay, ready? 2 teams. The Vancouver Canucks. Because Marcus Naslund, do you know if you know Marcus Naslund? Their captain?
Yeah, I covered Marcus for 4 years.
He actually gave me a game-used hockey stick when I was 3. And ever since then, I was hooked on the Canucks.
It's funny how life happens sometimes that way. Where was this in Chicago?
Yeah.
And after the game, he gave you a stick.
Yeah, because my parents told me at the time I kept on calling his name, Marcus, 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 and he gave me his stick.
Huh.
Yeah, I was like,
do you still have it?
yeah, it's actually over there somewhere. There's some sticks there.
Yeah.
And then I'm also like Tampa, the Lightning, because I love Martin St. Louis. He's one of my favorite players. Martin St. Louis.
He's not there anymore.
Unfortunately.
And neither is Naslund.
Yeah. Unfortunately not.
I moved to Vancouver the first time in 2000, right before Marcus Naslund was named captain of the team. And I spent 4 years covering him. And Nazi is a prince of a human being. That doesn't surprise me at all that he would do that. He's a good dude. He's a really good dude, and just a total gentleman.
Yes.
I really like Marcus. I haven't spoken to him in years, but his line mate Todd Bertuzzi is a regular on my radio show every week in Vancouver. So yeah, he's a good man.
I like that. I like the team like Bertuzzi, Naslund, Brendan Morrison. That team, I like that team a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, do you have a favorite hockey team since we're on topic?
You know what? I'm kind of an all over the map guy with that, and I find myself less about a team and more about the players in a lot of ways now. And I think a lot of that now is because of being in the media, for kind of telling yourself not to cheer for so long, right? And I think I kind of bounced around in the sense that when I was a kid, kind of how Marcus Naslund hooked you up with a hockey stick and you became a fan. My aunt she was living in Edmonton, and I was about 5, and for Christmas one year, she sent me an Oiler toque scarf and mitts. And I just thought, okay, this is going to be my team. Like it's like, okay, this is going to be my team. And they just happened to have a rookie by the name of Gretzky on the team that year. And, it was like, oh, okay. And the rest is history. And so that was kind of the beginning for me being a Gretzky fan through the 80s and the Oilers. And then when Gretzky got traded, I felt like I was still cheering. I cheered for Gretzky. I liked the Oilers, but I definitely didn't like the Oilers as much once Gretzky went to LA.
Mm-hmm.
And so I found myself cheering for Gretzky there, and still had some love for the Oilers. But then Messier got traded, and kind of by that point, the band was starting to break up at a significant pace. And then Ottawa, where I was from, they got a team. And so it was like, okay, I got to support my home team. And then the Senators were terrible, and they just started to turn the corner right before I left. And so, it was kind of like Oilers and Kings, and then, Ottawa. And, I tried to rep Ottawa for a few years. Always kind of say, hey, I'm an Ottawa guy and I support the team. But, it's been 20 plus years since I lived there. And, they were only there for a few years and they weren't very good. So it's not like, I covered the team, but it wasn't like I was emotionally attached. And then when I was in Vancouver, I found myself, you covered the team and you found myself kind of rooting for them a bit. And I've been back here for about 7 years. And I guess if you had to pin me down to say who would you be most happy to see win a Stanley Cup, I'd probably say Vancouver nowadays, just because it's the community I live in, and it would be great for, these fans have been starving. And, but, I find myself cheering for players a lot, especially the ones you come in contact over the years. When I was working more as a reporter, guys like Jonathan Toews, you root for, and, just other players along the way that give you a good story, and guys that are class acts. And, it's hard not to root for certain people. I was, and to kind of see them along the way. So, Carey Price, I'd love to see win a Stanley Cup in Montreal because he's a good dude. And, Erik Karlsson, I'd love to see win a Stanley Cup. And, those are stories and guys I could get behind and root for. Just along the way.
Well, I wish my last name was in NHL. Zito. My last name is
Zito.
Mm-hmm. I wish it was.
Well, I think they'll probably do a call out at some point, potentially during the season, because they added I think we probably added another 600 names this year from the year before. So, I think, put it this way, I never thought I'd see a day where the name Cybulski would be in the game. And,
it's in the game.
It's in the game. Yeah, that's the one thing I made sure of trying to at least tweak when I got the gig.
So technically, you could make your own be a pro, right? Since you had your last name's in there, James.
Totally. Yeah, the one and only first round pick of the 18th round.
Do you have a favorite food, and why is it your favorite? Like, what is your favorite food?
Favorite food, I think it's probably not something I should eat every day, but how do you beat pizza?
Pizza.
Right?
Well,
bacon and mushroom on
all those are good pizzas.
Yeah, that would probably be my go-to. Poutine gets a lot of love in this house as well, which I don't know as an American if you're quite familiar with poutine. So poutine is a Canadian staple. It's French fries with cheese curds and smothered with gravy.
That sounds such good.
It's amazing. It's amazing. It's probably not the healthiest thing for you, but it's pretty yummy. Chicken wings. All the unhealthy things, and a nice a good tuna poke.
Okay. You can't go on with the pizza though. Like, I don't know if you had Chicago pizza. Like, oh my god.
Oh yeah.
Good pizza.
Yeah. It's funny because Ottawa was known for its like thick crust and doughy and lots of cheese. So, thin crust seems to be all the rage these days. So I think it's what you kind of grew up with, what you know. But I like a big, thick pie. Like I just. Give me something with a lot of cheese and lots of toppings, and I don't mind my carbs. I know some people are more mindful of their carbohydrate intake, but I'm okay. If if you're gonna have pizza, like, live a little, right? Like, if you're gonna miss heaven, don't miss by 2 inches.
You're right. What advice would you give younger people who want to become a broadcaster?
Follow your dreams. Stay with it. It's not always going to be easy, and it's not going to always come to you. But, if you want it, and if you're willing to work hard and pay your dues, I think it's there. Like, talent rises to the top. And if you show, the executives and the people in charge that you're willing to do, whatever, then go for it. And, it's to show that you want it, right? Like, I look for myself and the opportunities that presented itself along the way. I moved away from Ottawa to take a job in Toronto. I moved away from Toronto to take a job in Vancouver. I left Vancouver to take a job in Toronto. I left Toronto to take a job in Vancouver. And, to make, so there were sacrifices along the way and to uproot your life. But at the same time, the opportunities were there because I think I showed that I was adaptable and willing to do and go. And not to say that you always have to move away to get a job, but I think, when I was younger, I was all about wanting to make it and at least or have some form of success in this business and whatever that is measured by. But, it was, for me, I had a goal in mind in terms of what I was doing, and was very lucky to travel around the world for several years covering, stuff I would, kill or spend lots of money to attend otherwise. Right. So it was a great way to see the world on the company dime and be paid to do it.
I like that advice. Good advice. Okay, is there anything you'd like to promote or shout out? Like link in the description.
You can find me on Twitter at James Cybulski. That's Cybulski, and on Instagram, same name,
Okay.
Cybulski, and yeah, that's it. That's all. Be safe, be smart, wear a mask if you're going inside to a restaurant, and let's get through this all together and hopefully safely. And vote.
That too, and wash your hands. Right.
And wash your hands. Yeah, exactly. Get these big hands. Wash your hands.
Okay. Well, I thank you all so much for watching. Thank you so much, Mr. Cybulski, for being an awesome and amazing guest.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Have a great day, everybody, and stay awesome. And stay awesome, Mr. Cybulski. Thank you.
Peace.
Oh, did you think the video is all over? Oh, we're not done yet. I like to give a quick shout out to Mr. Wayne's Pop Culture Collectibles. He's located at 10 West Burlington Avenue in Westmont, Illinois. His hours are Tuesday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 10 p.m., Saturday, 11 a.m. to 9 p.m., Sunday, 12 noon to 7 p.m. He's closed every Monday. And you can also follow him on social media at Mr. Wayne SPCC. And to go to his website, MrWayneSPCC.com. Well, I thank you all so much for watching, and stay awesome and stay safe. Thank you again. Joe out. Peace.